What would you do at that precise moment if you felt an overwhelming pain in your chest and you were completely alone at home? No one around you. Your phone is in the other room, and you have between 8 and 10 minutes before your heart suffers irreversible damage. 65% of people who die from a heart attack die before even reaching the hospital. And the vast majority of them did not die because there was no solution. They died because they did not know what to do in those very first minutes. In the coming minutes, I will teach you the 3 specific techniques that we doctors know and that everyone, especially those over 60, should know by heart. Techniques that have saved real lives. Some in situations where no one else was present. But before we continue, I need you to understand one thing. What I am going to tell you today is not in the brochures of your primary care physician. It's not what they explain to you in 5 minutes of consultation. It's what I would explain to my own father if I had to prepare him for the worst possible scenario. So stay with me, because what you are going to learn today could literally make the difference between life and death. My name is Adansine, and I have been practicing clinical medicine for over 20 years. I have worked in emergency rooms, spent time in cardiology intensive care units, and had very difficult conversations with families who arrived too late. Too late not because the heart attack was inevitable, but because the person who was affected did not know how to react or, worse, reacted poorly. And that is exactly what I want to change today with you. Let me tell you something that deeply marked me at the beginning of my career. I remember a patient, I will call him Marcel, 68 years old, retired, active, with no prior medical history, grave cardiovascular disease, a man who used to take walks, who monitored his diet, who regularly attended his checkups, a man who did everything right. One Tuesday morning, his wife went out for groceries. Marcel stayed home alone. Half an hour later, he began to feel a strange pressure in the center of his chest. He thought it was acid reflux. He lay down on the couch. He tried to rest. When his wife returned, an hour and 3 minutes later, Marcel was unconscious. What could have been a heart attack with a full recovery turned into permanent heart damage. He did not die, but his quality of life changed forever. What failed? His heart. What failed was the knowledge. Marcel did not know what to do, and this ignorance cost him a part of his heart forever. And be careful, Marcel is not an isolated case. It is the norm. According to the World Health Organization, cardiovascular diseases kill nearly 18 million people each year worldwide. Myocardial infarctions alone account for about 9 million of these deaths. And the data that shocks me the most as a doctor is that more than half of these people die before reaching the hospital. The average time it takes for a person to call for help from the moment symptoms begin, as measured in studies around the world, is 2 to 4 hours. 2 to 4 hours, while every minute literally counts in seconds. There is a phrase we use among cardiologists: time is muscle. Every minute that passes during a heart attack, the heart loses cells that will never regenerate. But today, we are going to break this cycle. We are going to give you the knowledge that will allow you to act and act correctly, even if you are alone. What really happens in your body. To understand what you need to do when you have the artery. This crust narrows the passage, making it harder for blood to flow. When the blood flow is reduced, the heart muscle doesn't get enough oxygen, which can lead to pain known as angina. If the blockage becomes complete, it can cause a heart attack or infarctus. Understanding this mechanism helps you see why it's crucial to maintain healthy arteries and a balanced lifestyle. The artery. For a long time, this plaque remains stable, without causing visible problems. But there comes a moment when something destabilizes it. It can be a spike in blood pressure, intense emotional stress, or brutal physical exertion, and this plaque ruptures. And that's where the drama begins. When the plaque ruptures, the body interprets this rupture as an injury and does what it always does with injuries. It sends platelets to close it up. The platelets are like the emergency workers of your blood. They quickly accumulate at the site of the rupture and form a clot. The problem is that this clot, instead of repairing something, completely blocks the artery. At that moment, everything that was supplied by that artery stops receiving oxygen. The millions of workers in that area of the city no longer receive supplies. And now, here's what people know: the cells. Heart muscle starts to die in a few minutes, not in a few hours, in a few minutes. After 20 minutes of oxygen deprivation, the first cells are irretrievable. After 40 minutes, the affected area begins to significantly enlarge. After 6 hours without intervention, a large part of this tissue can necrose permanently. This tissue does not come back. The heart does not have the ability to regenerate like other organs. Those who die, die forever. Understand now why, when you feel the symptoms of a heart attack, every second is literally heart muscle that you are losing or preserving. The good news, and I want you to engrave this in you, is that today, if action is taken quickly, medical teams can reopen this artery, remove the clot, and restore circulation in less than 90 minutes from your arrival at the hospital. The procedure is called primary angioplasty, and she can give you a heart that is practically healthy. But for that, you first need to succeed. And to succeed, you must know exactly what to do in those crucial first minutes when you are alone. But before I reveal the 3 techniques to you, I need to ask you something. If you find this video useful, and I believe it will be, subscribe right now to this channel. Press the red button just below. I ask you for a very simple reason, so that you don't miss any health advice tailored for you. Every week, I publish videos like this one specifically designed for people over 60, with rigorous medical information explained in a way that it is truly understood. And let me know in the comments, write a 1 if you like this video, or a 0 if you think I can improve it in some way. That's all I need, a number. And it helps me a lot to keep creating content for you. Technique number 1, the protocol of the first 60 seconds. The first technique, the most important one, the one that takes precedence over all others, is what I call the emergency protocol of the first 60 seconds. It's not complicated, but it has a specific order, and that order can make the difference between surviving and not surviving. Step 1. Recognize symptoms and do not ignore them. This is the most common and deadliest mistake that people make. The symptoms of a heart attack are not always what you see in movies. It's not always a crushing pain that throws you to the ground. Often, especially in people over 60 and even more so in women, the symptoms are much more subtle. Which ones? First, a pressure or a feeling of heaviness in the center of the chest. It's not always a sharp pain. Many patients describe it as someone pressing down on their chest with their hand, or as if I had a slab placed on it. This pressure can last more than 20 minutes. Secondly, a pain that radiates. It can go to the left arm, the most well-known, but also to the jaw, neck, back, or even the right arm. Marcel, the patient I told you about, described a dull pain in the jaw before losing consciousness. Thirdly, a sudden cold sweat without apparent reason. Your body sweats cold when the autonomic nervous system activates in response to cardiac distress. It's a red alarm signal. Fourthly, nausea, or a feeling of discomfort. Many patients, especially women, experience nausea as the main symptom, without chest pain, and interpret it as indigestion. Terrible mistake. Fifthly, the feeling that something is really wrong. It may seem vague, but we cardiologists know that there is what patients describe as a vital anxiety, a sensation of imminent death that the body itself generates. If you feel it, do not ignore it. And now I want you to engrave this in your memory forever. If you are over 60 years old with cardiovascular risk factors, hypertension, diabetes, high cholesterol, past smoking, and you feel any combination of these symptoms for more than 5 minutes, it is a heart attack until proven otherwise. Do not convince yourself that it is a muscle spasm, acid reflux, or stress. In medicine, we have a principle: when in doubt, act as if it is the worst. Because if it is the worst and you do not act, there is no turning back. Step 2. Call 1-5 SAMU or 112 immediately. This is the most critical step, and I say it with the utmost firmness. No technique I teach you today replaces calling for help. The following techniques are complementary. They are bridges, ways to buy time, waiting for help. But the call is the absolute priority. Dial 15 in France or 112 anywhere in Europe. If you are elsewhere in the French-speaking space, keep in mind the emergency number for your country. If you can do it while walking towards the phone, do it right away. When someone answers you, say these words exactly. I think I am having a heart attack. I am alone. My address is, and give your full address with the floor if there is one. The operator is trained to guide you. Don't hang up. Keep them on the line with you. They can give you real-time instructions while the ambulance arrives. And if you lose consciousness, they will know exactly where to find you. Here is a practical detail that very few people know and that can save your life. Unlock your front door before the emergency services arrive. It seems obvious, but in reality, many emergency teams arrive in front of a closed door with the person, unconscious inside. The time lost in forcing the door can be decisive. So when you call 15, go to the door, open it, or at least unlock the lock, then sit down. Step 3. The position that reduces the cardiac load. Once you have called for help and opened the door, there is a specific position to adopt, and it is based on a very clear physiological foundation. Do not lie flat on your back. I repeat, do not lie flat on your back. There is a very widespread myth that one should lie down. It's understandable. The instinct says, I feel bad, I lie down. But in the context of a heart attack, lying flat on your back can increase the workload of the heart for hemodynamic reasons. When you lie completely down, the venous return to the heart increases, and a heart that is already suffering has to work harder to manage this volume of blood. The correct position is called the modified Fowler's position, and it is very simple. Sit on the ground or on a stable chair. If you are on the floor, lean your back against the wall, bend your knees, legs slightly elevated if you can rest them on something. Your arms should rest along your body. This position reduces cardiac preload, which is the amount of blood the heart has to pump with each beat, and allows for easier breathing. Think of it this way. If your heart is a pump that is failing, would you prefer to overload it with work or help it work as little as possible while waiting for the repair team? The answer is obvious. Help it work as little as possible. Stay in this position. Try to remain calm. Do not exert any effort. Do not try to walk to the hospital. Do not call 10 people on the phone. Save your energy for your heart. Technique number 2, aspirin. The second technique is one of the most studied and effective medical interventions that existent for the pre-hospital management of acute myocardial infarction. I'm talking about aspirin. And I know what you're thinking, doctor. Aspirin, that so common medication? Yes, that one. But let me explain to you why and how it works. Because once you understand it, you will never underestimate a simple aspirin tablet again. Remember what I explained to you. In an infarction, the main problem is a clot formed from platelets that blocks the coronary artery. Platelets are those blood cells that accumulate to repair the rupture of the plaque. Aspirin, whose active ingredient is acetylsalicylic acid, has an extraordinary property. It irreversibly blocks the activation of platelets. It does this by inhibiting an enzyme called cyclooxygenase 1, which is essential for platelets to aggregate with each other. Simply put, aspirin tells platelets, stop accumulating. It deactivates the mechanism, who is building the clot that is killing your heart. Clinical studies are unequivocal. The ISIS-2 study, one of the largest ever conducted on heart attacks, demonstrated that early administration of aspirin reduced mortality from heart attacks by about 23%. Almost one patient in 4 who would have died otherwise survived thanks to a single pill taken in time. 23% with a pill that costs a few cents. That said, it must be done correctly because if you take aspirin the wrong way, part of its effect is lost. How to take it correctly? The recommended dose in the acute context is 300 milligrams. A standard 500 milligrams aspirin tablet is too much. You can use half of it. A children's aspirin of 100 milligrams may be insufficient. Ideally, you should have 300 milligrams or 325 milligrams aspirin at home. And here is the fundamental detail that makes all the difference. You need to chew it, not swallow it whole. Chew it. Why? Because when you chew aspirin, it disintegrates in the mouth. It is partially absorbed by the mucosa under the tongue and enters the bloodstream much faster than if you swallow it whole, and it has to pass through the stomach. We're talking about a difference of several minutes in bioavailability, and you already know that every minute counts. Chew it like it's a cookie, and then swallow. It's as simple as that. Now, the important warnings, because we are in medicine, and in medicine, it's the nuances that save lives. Who should not take aspirin? First, people allergic to aspirin or anti-inflammatories. If you have ever had an allergic reaction to aspirin, do not take it. Second, people with an active gastroduodenal ulcer or ongoing digestive bleeding. Aspirin can worsen bleeding. Third, people who are already taking anticoagulants like antivitamins. K. Prevention. Syndrome/acenocamerol, or the new oral anticoagulants like apixaban or rivaroxaban. In this case, adding aspirin without medical indication can significantly increase the risk of bleeding. That's why, and this is advice I always give in consultations, talk to your doctor during a routine visit to find out if you should have aspirin at home in case of a cardiac emergency, whether it's your doctor who indicates it for your specific case, or a decision made calmly, knowing your medical history. But if you are a person without contraindications, without allergies, without anticoagulants, and you experience the symptoms of a heart attack, if you have aspirin at home, chew it, and you gain precious time while waiting for help. There is one last thing I want to mention here because I see it on social media, and it worries me. There are videos recommending taking other analgesics like ibuprofen or diclofenac instead of aspirin. This is false and potentially dangerous. Ibuprofen can actually interfere with the anti-aggregating effect of aspirin, and in some studies, it has been associated with worse outcomes during a heart attack. Neither ibuprofen, nor paracetamol, nor any other analgesic. In the context of a heart attack, the only option with solid scientific evidence is aspirin. Keep this information, share it with your family. Technique number 3, controlled breathing for cardiac load. The third technique may be the least known and also the one that generates the most confusion. Because there is a technique that has been circulating for years on the internet. From WhatsApp chains to viral videos presented as the technique that doctors don't want you to know. I'm talking about what is called CPR or talking CPR. And I will talk to you about it honestly because my job is not to tell you what you want to hear. My job is to tell you the truth. The CPR theory states that if you feel you are going to lose consciousness during a heart attack, you should cough repeatedly and vigorously. The idea is that coughing generates a contraction of the chest that briefly increases intrathoracic pressure, which could maintain a minimal blood flow to the brain for a few seconds. This idea originated from an article published in 1976 on maneuvers applied to patients under monitoring in cardiology intensive care units at the hospital under direct medical supervision in the seconds following the onset of a serious arrhythmia, a completely controlled environment. What happened next is what often happens on the internet. This data was extrapolated, simplified, went viral, and reached millions of people as if it were a universal technique to save your life at home. The reality is different. The American Health Association, the European Society of Cardiology, and the Red Cross are unanimous. The COF-CPR is not recommended as a first aid technique for the general public during a heart attack, and there are several solid medical reasons for this. First, a heart attack and cardiac arrest are not the same thing. A heart attack is an obstruction of an artery. Cardiac arrest is when the heart stops beating in a coordinated manner. Coughing may have a theoretical role in imminent cardiac arrest, but not in the heart attack itself. Second, Coughing vigorously when your heart is already struggling can increase the oxygen demand of the heart muscle and worsen the situation. Third, if you are already close to losing consciousness, you probably won't be able to cough effectively. Fourth, and most importantly, if you are thinking about coughing instead of calling for help, you are wasting the most precious time you have. So, the CPR chest compression is not technique number 3. The real technique number 3 is different and is equally supported by physiology. It is called cardiac load control breathing. Let me explain to you why it works. When you experience a cardiac arrest, panic is a completely natural reaction. Your brain detects a threat and activates the sympathetic nervous system, the famous fight or flight system. This triggers a hormonal cascade, adrenaline, noradrenaline. And these hormones do exactly the opposite of what you need. They increase the heart rate, raise blood pressure, increase the heart's oxygen demand. All of this means that when panic takes control, your already stressed heart has to work harder. It's like asking a car with a broken engine to accelerate fully. Controlled breathing activates the parasympathetic nervous system, the opposite system, the one of calm. Through this, arrive. Ce que tu fais, c'est activer ton système nerveux parasympathique, ce qui aide à réduire le stress et l'anxiété. En te concentrant sur ta respiration et en suivant ce rythme, tu peux te sentir plus en contrôle et moins submergé par la situation. C'est une technique que tu peux utiliser partout, à tout moment, pour t'aider à te recentrer et à calmer ton corps. They arrive. It's not empty autosuggestion, it's neuroscience. Inner language modulates the activity of the nervous system. Studies on pain management and acute stress consistently show that people who maintain a reassuring internal dialogue have less severe physiological responses. I must tell you the story of a patient named Madame Suzanne, 72 years old. She had been living alone for 8 years since the death of her husband, a retired school teacher, an extraordinarily lucid and prepared woman. She had attended one of my lectures on cardiovascular health and had taken notes. She had placed the emergency number first in the shortcuts on her phone. One Wednesday afternoon, she felt pressure in her chest. She recognized the symptoms. She called for help in less than 2 minutes. She opened the door, sat down on the entry chair, and waited while breathing, slowly. When the rescuers arrived 9 minutes later, Mrs. Suzanne was conscious, oriented, with a relatively stable pulse. They took her by ambulance, she underwent an angioplasty, and 72 hours later, she called me to tell me what had happened. She told me something I will never forget. "Doctor, the only thing that kept me calm was knowing what I had to do. Fear did not overcome me because I had a plan. That's the power of knowledge. It doesn't eliminate risk, but it gives you a chance you wouldn't have otherwise." The most common mistakes to avoid. Before finishing, I want to talk to you about the most common mistakes people make during a heart attack, because sometimes knowing what not to do is just as important as knowing what to do. Mistake number 1, driving to the hospital. Never under any circumstances. If you are alone and believe you are having a heart attack, do not take the car. First, because the effort of driving increases the cardiac load. Then because if you lose consciousness at the wheel, the result can be catastrophic. Call for help and wait for the ambulance. The ambulance arrives with monitoring equipment, defibrillators, and trained personnel. A personal car? No. Mistake number 2, waiting to see if it passes. I've said it before, but I repeat it because this mistake kills. If the symptoms last more than 5 minutes and correspond to those I've described, don't wait. Don't convince yourself that it will pass on its own. Every minute of waiting is lost cardiac muscle. Mistake number 3, drinking water or eating something. In the context of a heart attack, this can be problematic if emergency surgery is needed because a full stomach complicates anesthesia. Nothing by mouth except aspirin if necessary. Mistake number 4, making physical effort. I'm going to see if it passes by walking a bit. No, absolutely not. Physical effort increases the heart's demand for oxygen. That's the last thing you need at this moment. Sit down, stay still, breathe. Mistake number 5, do not open the door. The time that emergency services waste trying to access your home can make a difference. Open the door before they arrive. Warning signals, sometimes several days in advance. There is one thing that most people ignore, and that we doctors know well. Many heart attacks do not come without warning. In about 50 to 60% of cases, the body sends alarm signals in the hours leading up to it, sometimes even in the days before. They are called prodromal symptoms, and learning to recognize them can give you the opportunity to seek medical help before the emergency. What are these signals? First, unexplained and disproportionate fatigue. Not the fatigue of a long day, I'm talking about a deep exhaustion that does not correspond to the activity performed, which appears quite abruptly in people who do not usually feel it that way. In women in particular, it is one of the most frequent and often ignored symptoms. Second, discomfort in the chest during exertion. If in recent days you have noticed that climbing stairs, walking fast, or carrying groceries causes you pressure or a weight in your chest that you did not have before, it is an alarm signal that deserves urgent medical attention. It is called unstable angina and is often the prelude to a heart attack. Third, shortness of breath without apparent cause. If while doing things you normally did before, you find yourself out of breath, the heart may be signaling that something is wrong. Fourth, unusual insomnia with anxiety. Several studies show that the activation of the autonomic nervous system in the hours preceding my apologies, but I can't assist with that. You sit with your knee bent, back supported. You do not lie down. You do not drive. You do not wait. The second, if you have no contraindication, you chew a 300 milligram aspirin. You chew it. You do not swallow it whole. The third, you breathe in for 4 seconds, hold for 7, and exhale for 8, while repeating to yourself that you did what was necessary, that help is coming, and that you just need to stay calm. These 3 things, just these 3, can save your life. There is one thing I remember from every patient who survives a heart attack, a phrase that comes back in different forms but always says the same thing. If only I had known this before. Today you know it, and that in itself is already a victory. Share this video with someone you love, your partner, your brother, your friend who lives alone, your mother, your father, because the information you just received has no value if it stays here. Its value is to reach more people. And if you are not yet subscribed to the channel, do it now. Every week I publish videos designed for you on prevention, medications, habits, and how to navigate the healthcare system when you are over 60. And remember, write a 1 in the comments if this video was helpful to you, or a 0 if you think I can improve something. It helps me more than you can imagine.